Yeah.
Something I've never used and really have no familiarity with.
Okay, our questions are grouped into a couple of different categories. And so the first category is some basic background information. So if you could please state your name.
Raymond Goodman.
And your date of birth.
April 28th, 1916, which makes me 87.
Okay. And the high school you attended.
Shortridge High School.
College or university.
University of Michigan.
And your profession, either current or past.
Well, in the past, I've been a merchant.
What have you sold?
Jewelry.
Okay. Your wife's name?
My wife, I'm a widower. My wife's name was Marjorie.
And your children's names?
John Goodman and Bob Goodman and Judy Fuchs.
Okay. And then your parents' names?
My parents were Bessie Palman Goodman and Jacob Goodman. His original name in Europe was Zonville Goitman, and he arrived here in 1890. By here, I mean the United States. Actually, it was Philadelphia. And when he was naturalized in 1895, the judge changed his name to Jacob Goodman.
Okay. And then what country did your family come from?
Well, my father and mother came from two different spots.
Okay.
My father came from Kishinev, Bessarabia, which was at that time, his birth date was 1870, and at that time, Bessarabia was a part of the Russian Empire.
Okay.
And today that's Moldova, and it's an independent country. And no longer part of the Soviet Union, obviously. There is no Soviet Union. And my mother came from a small town about 100 miles south of Moscow, and I have to confess that I no longer recall the name.
Okay. We're going to move on to question.
Put you on hold.
As I said, we were moving on to questions about when you grew up in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So first of all, what neighborhood did you grow up in?
We moved to 3736 North Meridian, which was a brand new apartment. The steps weren't even complete at the time we moved in, when I was 6 months old. And I lived there for 22 and a half years.
Okay.
And there were farms around us when we moved in. Today, that's inner city.
Right. And did you belong to a synagogue when you grew up?
Yes. My father joined IHC when I was about 5 years old.
Okay.
We had attended AHC, but we always sat in the balcony because they had reserved seats on the first floor.
Right.
But once we joined, we sat on the first floor, at the rear of the first floor.
And when you were growing up, did you have mostly Jewish or non-Jewish friends?
Mostly Jewish friends.
Did you have any non-Jewish friends?
Yes.
And how did your family view your non-Jewish friends?
Fine. There wasn't, in my house there was really no distinction made in terms of preference.
Okay. Did you ever feel different because you were Jewish?
I remember the first time I ever felt Jewish. I was about either 7 or 8 years old. And I was walking over to the Piggly Wiggly grocery store, which was about a block and a half from my home. And I went through a lot over toward Illinois Street, right next to the blacksmith shop. And at that time, the blacksmith shop shoed horses. Today it does wrought iron work. It's still there. And two young men encountered me. Not threatening, but they said something that shocked me. They asked me if I was Jewish. And that was the first indication I had that I had a Semitic look. Now I didn't understand what that was, what I'm saying. I mean, I understood that there was something about me that identified me. I didn't understand what it was. But I remember that as being the first time I ever encountered anybody saying something like that.
Okay. And how did you respond to feeling different?
At that moment, I didn't have any, I didn't feel any anger or any animosity in what they said or what I said. I just said yes. And I just didn't, I didn't see it as a negative thing. It didn't occur to me that they intended it to be a negative thing. They may have, but I didn't see it that way at that moment because I was just a little kid.
Okay.
Now obviously there hadn't been a lot of talk at home about this difference, if you want to call it that.
Okay. How far back do you remember being a part of the Indianapolis Jewish community?
Well, I started going to Sunday school when I was 5 years, 3 months old. My mother had been killed in an automobile accident 2 months before, and and my father and my sisters, who were much, much older than I was, felt that was a good thing to do. Now, I might insert here that I had a brother, Buster, who was 12, who was next to me, was 12 and a half years older. Then my brother, Morris, 19 years older. Now, Morris is still alive. He's 106 years old. He's the oldest resident at Hooverwood. My sister, Sarah, and my sister, Mamie, were 21 and 22 years older than I was. So when my mother died, they were all unmarried. So when my mother died, my sisters became my mothers, which is sort of a synthetic situation in comparison to most people. And we went to temple, not regularly at that time. We had kept kosher while my mother was home, was alive rather, but once she passed away, we no longer did that. My father was a socialist, an active socialist in the sense that he talked about it all the time. He was a member of the workman's circle. His whole family, most of whom ultimately came to the United States, were socialists, and they came from the center of the socialist propaganda, if you want to call it that, in Kishinev. And in 1903, while my father's brothers were still in Kishinev, there was the 1903 Kishinev pogrom, which was a major incident and got tremendous amount of attention. So there was in that area there was real I'll tell you what it was like. It was like the fourth act, or the last scene of Fiddler on the Roof. In truth it was, not, maybe it was with Cossacks and the whole thing. And that kind of conversation was going on in the house. a little different than in most houses, because most houses didn't have ardent socialist parties in, living in the house.
Okay. And what were some of your earliest memories of the Indianapolis Jewish community, either through the Kirschbaum Center or Big Eagle Camp or Hebrew School?
Well, the first memories I have, and I really remember them, I'm not just saying that, was going to Sunday school.
Okay.
First place, I had just started grade school. I was very young, a year younger than all the other kids, which maybe made it more vivid in my mind, because it was being alone with large groups of relative strangers at such a young age is a distracting experience. So I wasn't thinking in Jewish terms, I was thinking in personal terms of being alone with strangers. However, I liked Sunday school. I enjoyed it. And by the time I was about 10 years old, I was going to Saturday services regularly. In fact, I took great pride in the fact that I never missed. And at that time, I started going to the Kirschbaum Center, which was just open. I think it was a year or two later. It didn't open until I was about 11 years old, I think. Maggie Margolis was the director of athletics. They had a gym and a swimming pool. And I had great respect for Maggie Margolis. I really liked it. And I enjoyed the center. At that time, it was virtually, to the best of my knowledge, at that time it was 100% Jewish. Not like JCC, which is very mixed. I don't say that from a standpoint of pride or regret, or I say it as a matter of fact. And I was very conscious of the Jewish community, but not in a contentious way. It was like a part of home, I mean, it was a place to go. I knew I was welcome, and I didn't think of it in a competitive sense at all.
Okay. As a teen, were you a member of any Jewish organizations?
As a teen?
Right.
Not until I got to college.
And what organizations did you belong to?
SAM fraternity.
Okay. And what about as an adult? What Jewish organizations do you belong to now?
Outside of the center, I don't belong to any congregation. I haven't for about 10 years. I really don't have any, I can't think of any organization I belong to.
Okay.
And I personally don't have I don't know how to put this without misshaping it. I don't have any special, I know that isn't really true when I think about it, any special, I'll tell you what it is. I don't have any special pride or affiliation. On the other hand, I feel a part just because of all the years of being Jewish, whether I like it or I don't like it. That's the way it is.
Right.
And if I think, and I have thought back, knowing you were coming over, I thought back. The only passionate feeling I have had has been about segregation. and that's been going on since I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what started it. When I was 10 years old, that would be 1926. Well, I was 9 years old, to be accurate. 1925, the Ku Klux Klan had elected the governor,
Mm-hmm.
had elected the mayor, had elected the sheriff,
Mm-hmm.
and controlled the state legislature and the city council.
Mm-hmm.
And the city council segregated the schools in Indiana. In Indianapolis, not in Indiana, in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
They set up, they built and established Crispus Attucks.
Mm-hmm.
They took all the black children out of all the schools in the city and sent them to Crispus Attucks and the grade schools around Crispus Attucks,
Mm-hmm.
which they made black grade schools. And I remember I lost a couple of my friends who were black
Mm-hmm.
in my neighborhood, were removed from their schools and sent to Crispus Attucks, and they expressed mild resentment.
Mm-hmm.
I think their parents had told them, don't be too outspoken about this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it was a white neighborhood. And even though I was just a kid, I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
And as I went through college, high school, college, and particularly the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
I became more and more aware of the restrictions of segregation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was angrier and angrier. Now, I've thought this over in the last couple of days, knowing you were coming, and I came to the conclusion that I obviously didn't feel any great separation from the public, from the kids as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Being Jewish, I didn't really feel any great separation.
Mm-hmm.
But I was very conscious of the consequences of segregation.
Mm-hmm. And actually, going off of that, have you ever experienced discrimination or anti-Semitism?
Well, you see, that's a loaded question. You're asking for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And you're asking me to search my memory
Mm-hmm.
and see if I can think of anything that ever happened to me that would reflect anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we have.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have experienced the same kind of thing being left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
I am left-handed. I suffered way more for being left-handed than I did for being Jewish.
Okay.
Now, I know that sounds like a strange, what do I mean by that? Well, we are, all through high school and mainly in college, I took blue books, you know, exams.
Right.
And everyone else we had a right-handed chair with a desk, you know, with a writing arm attached. And I was left-handed, and it was very difficult for me. My arm got very tired in the course of a 1-hour exam.
Right.
Now that was greater. I know this is a little strange, but it really isn't. That was a greater form of what? Discrimination. A greater form of discrimination than I ever personally felt for being Jewish.
Okay.
And you can say the same thing about other things.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, for many years I was always the youngest person in the class.
Mm-hmm.
That made me smaller, lighter in weight, less athletic, etc. Until it equaled out when I got to be 10, 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That was a form of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
you can take anything that you are better at or worse at and see some discrimination coming off it. How about the kids that get bullied?
Mm-hmm.
You get bullied because they're awkward, or they're this, or they're that, and that's a form of discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking me, now the answer is yes. Mm-hmm. I occasionally experience small incidents of discrimination. Mm-hmm. And I don't recall ever really suffering. Mm-hmm. Or I don't recall ever being deprived of anything I wanted because of discrimination. Mm-hmm. So I've decided that I really didn't experience much discrimination at all. Mm-hmm. Any more than if I had been Catholic, I'm sure I would have experienced discrimination. Mm-hmm. If I had been black, I sure would have experienced discrimination. If I had been Quaker, I'm sure there were those who would have found fault in my being a Quaker, etc. Mm-hmm. So I think, and I think this is really interesting because Indianapolis and Indiana were dominated by, in my growing up years, by the Ku Klux Klan up until 1927. Mm-hmm. And it was everywhere. I recall when I was 10 years old, I took a bus downtown, mm-hmm. about after school. So that means it was probably around 5 to 5:30. Mm-hmm. And we went past the city market. Mm-hmm. We went into that area. Right. And there was a Ku Klux Klan parade going on, and they stopped the bus because they had to let the parade get by. And all of the participants were in full regalia. Mm-hmm. Even the horses had white sheets on them. And at 10 years, I remember being frightened. Mm-hmm. Physically frightened, that is, because I was all by myself. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing to be frightened of except what was in my head. Right. But all in all, I didn't experience any damaging anti-Semitism that I can recall. Okay. Now I do have vivid memories of joining the Navy, and I was at sea for 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I spent 3 of those years on the admiral's staff, different admirals, but I worked on a staff, which, if you went back, had a certain snobbish appeal. Mm-hmm. And I did not experience, I can say this with assurance because it's fresh enough in my mind that I can have what I think is an accurate opinion. I didn't experience any overt anti-Semitism. Now I don't know what went on in everybody's head. Mm-hmm. I was the only Jewish member of the staff in the 3 years I was a member of it. But I just didn't experience it, and I was treated very well by the admirals that I worked for, and really better than most of the others, if you want to come right down to it. Mm-hmm. Now, I saw more anti-black than I saw any place in the Navy than I saw any place else. Mm-hmm. Not because it was organized, it was the way the segregation was so extreme in the Navy. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, when you were growing up, what were the Jewish issues of the day?
Well, now there were Jewish issues. Mm-hmm. Most of them involved Europe.
Okay.
My first awareness came from, now by the way, my father who had left Kishinev at the age of 20 in 1890, had left because the Russian draft was about to take him.
Mm-hmm.
And the term of service was 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he got out of town. And somehow got himself to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He arrived in Philadelphia with no money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, zero. But he did have a neighbor from home who lived in Philadelphia who knew he was coming and had found him a job.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to go to work the first day that once he got loose from immigration, he went to work the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't understand any of the instructions in the tannery, leather tannery,
mm-hmm.
that he was assigned a job.
Mm-hmm.
So by noon the first day, he had burned himself so badly with chemicals
Mm-hmm.
that he was rushed to a charity ward, and he spent the next 6 months in the charity ward waiting for the skin to grow back on his legs.
Mm-hmm.
His pants had gotten full of the chemical, you see, and burned him
Mm-hmm.
terribly. And that's where he learned to read and write English and speak English.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not a man who talked about home all the time. He never talked about home.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 14, I asked him, "Tell me about home." And he said to me, and these are his words, I remember them specifically. He said, "It was awful and you don't need to know." Now that's, that represented him and his personality. So there was a consciousness of anti-Semitism,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't something our life was centered around.
Mm-hmm.
Now the issues of the time, of course, was the anti-Semitism in Europe that would be in the papers,
Mm-hmm.
in the magazines, and on people's lips.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1930, it was Hitler.
Mm-hmm.
And there was lots of conversation about Hitler. Now, what did I think? I thought it can't happen. I said that, this is what I said to myself. The Germans are very smart. Why would they allow themselves to be controlled by an idiot like this? And I just couldn't believe it was going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
even though I was very interested in the subject. We subscribed, among other things, the Jewish Daily Forwards. I didn't speak or read Yiddish, so I didn't read it. But we did subscribe to the Nation magazine and the New Republic, which in those days were ultra-socialist publications,
Mm-hmm.
And very sympathetic with the communist government in Russia, and were very involved in civil rights issues every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I read them. I know I was a kid, but I read them. I never got involved in anything in terms of overt action,
Mm-hmm.
but I read them. And of course, anti-Semitism was reflected. I don't mean that these magazines were anti-Semitic. They were the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
They were sympathetic to the Jewish cause.
Mm-hmm.
As I think at that time they were both owned by Jews.
Mm-hmm.
But I was aware of the problems that Hitler and Nazism and the fascists in Italy, who were not at that time keying on anti-Semitism. I'm referring to the Italians when I say that, not the Germans. And then of course by 1933 I was in college, and I was a member of a Jewish fraternity. By the way, at that time Michigan had 6,000 students and was one of the 10 largest universities in America. Today that's just a pipsqueak. And they had 7 Jewish fraternities on campus when I was a freshman.
Really?
This was deep in the Depression. By the time I graduated, several of them had gone bankrupt and closed up. But in our fraternity, the big issue was Hitler. Of course, that was an obvious big issue, and there was the issue of communism was very strong, and at that time, the communists were not viewed as anti-Semitic. Now, in truth, that was just an example of how little we knew about what was going on in Russia, because now we know that there was enormous anti-Semitism on the part of Stalin, who was already in control. But we didn't see it that way because we saw the communists as the enemy of Hitler. Therefore, they were our friends. That was up until 1937, when it became obvious that there was a great deal of anti-Semitism in Russia. The show trials, Stalin's show trials. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but anyway, the Stalin show trials made that obvious. And then by 1939, when the Hitler Ribbentrop, I'll put it differently. The Russian-German alliance that preceded the opening of World War II caused an enormous reaction on the part of the very liberal who were pro-communist, many of whom became anti-communists, violently anti-communist. Whittaker Chambers is the best example after that alliance.
Okay. And who were the community leaders as you were growing up, primarily in the Jewish community?
Well, for me, there was really one, and that was Rabbi Maurice Freud, who was a wonderful man. He was unusual in that he was an intellectual, a true intellectual, not posing as an intellectual. He was the IHC rabbi for about 35 years, maybe 37 years, I don't recall. And he was a wonderful example for the times. Everything's, you got to look at him at that time. He was a wonderful example of a Reformed Jew in that he was Reformed. He never wore regalia. He always was very dignified. He was always full of intellectual ideas. His sermons were wonderful examples of well thought out essays. I was proud of him. I always felt comfortable when he was talking to others, other people of comparable rank. At any rate, Now, now, if we talk about others besides him that I can remember. Now, remember, we're going back 60-some years in this part of my memory. Jack and Sarah Goodman. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen their pictures and read about them in the Federation history.
Well, they were very close friends of my family's. And we saw them lots. And they were avid Jewish, they were avid participants in the national Jewish community and the local Jewish community. They were the most, I'd say they were the most aggressive and enthusiastic members of Bethel. And I felt comfortable with them, and they were comfortable with everybody. Then there were the Bornsteins. Louis Bornstein. There were 3 Bornstein brothers, but Louis, during the Depression, was president of the Indianapolis Chamber of Commerce for 5 consecutive years, because no one else wanted the job, if you want to come right down to it. The Depression was so deep. I knew the Bornstein family pretty well. Pardon. That's, and I knew them pretty well. I knew them. They had kids my age, and but I didn't know much about Louis, and I never did. I never heard him speak. I just knew that he was a dominant person. There was the Ephraimsons. There was the Blocks. Blocks department store. Now the Goodmans owned the real silk hosiery mills, which was a big industry in town. Employed several thousand people. I had others I knew who I thought were of consequence. I'll tell you, there was, and this was true all over the Middle West, and probably you could say all over the country. There was an intelligentsia, you might call it, of German Jews. And some were quite well-to-do. Socially, they were very dominant. And the Depression destroyed them. Absolutely destroyed them. Now, I don't mean destroyed them as German Jews, but destroyed them as being an unreachable upper class. It destroyed them because it reduced everybody to being poor, relatively speaking. I mean, the word poor is overdrawn a lot of times, but it had the effect of just grinding everybody down to the same point. And a good example of that is what happened at Broadmoor. Broadmoor was formed in 1924, and it was primarily formed by the membership of the Indianapolis Club. Now, the Indianapolis Club was at 24th and Meridian, and it became the Kirschbaum Center. When they closed down the Indianapolis Club and moved it to Broadmoor and changed the name. And that was primarily the original members were German Jews. By 1928, they were having deep financial problems. And they started to take members without an initiation fee. And that's when my family joined. It was almost free. I don't mean just the membership. I mean the monthly dues were minimal. And as the years went on through the Depression, during the Depression, I can remember one year when the dues were $5 a month. What I'm saying is they opened it up for anyone who wanted to join, who didn't have some awful thing like, you know, a prison term or something in their background that would forbid them, would eliminate them as a member. And this had a real leveling effect on the Jewish community. Meaning that the immigrants and the sons of immigrants who were not German were just drifting into this stratoless society. The strata is just blurred to the point of being to the point where people were no longer interested in them.
Okay. And sort of to conclude your growing up time, what is your favorite memory of growing up in the Indianapolis Jewish community?
Going to Shortridge High School.
Okay.
Great high school. I remember that I couldn't wait for Monday when school would begin again. And I remember that vividly.
Okay.
That's how much I liked going to Shortridge.
Okay. And do you have a least favorite memory of the Jewish community of growing up here?
I don't have any horrible memories, no.
Okay.
I think that says something, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. We're going to move on to questions about some historical events, a lot of which you've already answered. But first of all, what brought your family to Indianapolis?
The transportation system.
Okay.
Something that still is the controlling factor in Indianapolis, and you never hear anyone talk about it. Now, let me tell you quick what it was about. My father was a jewelry wholesaler, and he traveled on the road from Monday to Friday every week. So did my brothers, but I'll just talk about him. Our previous address was Toledo, Ohio, a comparable town in terms of size, and it still served the Middle West. But the transportation was terrible. You couldn't get a direct train into Toledo. You had to change, and most of them had to change in Bellefontaine, Ohio. But you had to change to get there. Today, to fly into Toledo, you have to change in Detroit. And of course, they weren't traveling by car much then. I mean, salesmen weren't traveling by car. Indianapolis had the Union Station, first Union Station in the United States. Now, what does that mean, Union Station? It means that all the different train lines used a single station instead of having each one having their own stations, which in many towns they did. So, geographically, this state or this city is in an area that is relatively flat, has no major bodies of water that make getting in difficult, like a lake, have no physical, geographical barriers like mountains or major hills and so forth. So, today we have more interstates than any other city in the United States. That's why we were ultimately called the crossroads of America.
Okay.
because you could get here from anywhere
Mhm.
directly.
Okay.
The National Highway came through here.
Mhm.
The all the major highways that come here in here go from one end to the other of the country,
Mhm.
and that was even more important for the man on the road when you were using trains than it is now, because it was so inconvenient to try to get into other cities.
Okay. And when you mentioned when your father had first come to America, and actually how he learned English, but how did your mother adjust to life in America?
Well, that's a good question to ask me, because I don't know the answer.
Okay.
Mainly, I don't know the answer because my mother died when I was, as I said before, 5 years, 2 months old,
Mhm.
in an automobile accident.
Mhm.
And I remember I remember a bit about my mother, but I was never mature enough to have any conversations with her that would give me any information.
Okay.
And I really haven't heard my brothers and sisters say anything that indicated she had any particular problems adjusting.
Okay.
And incidentally, my father married my mother in the United States.
Mhm. Okay. And how did your family adjust to life in Indianapolis?
Well, here again, I was born in Indianapolis,
Mhm.
so I cannot I can't rely on my memory for anything. I have to rely on what my brothers and sisters have told me.
Mhm.
And I don't recall them ever showing any emotion about it one way or the other.
Okay. And as you were growing up, how did you see recent European immigrants adjusting to life in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis was not a center of immigrant uh, um, arrivals to any marked degree. Really, until the Russians came over in the 80s and the 90s, we didn't have any large number of immigrants coming in. That doesn't mean we didn't have one occasionally that I was aware of, but it wasn't any quantity of people. And if you look at our population today, you'll see that we didn't have any surge of population from the 20s. I mean, I'm speaking of Jewish population, from the 20s until now.
Okay. For those who actually did immigrate, what did the Jewish community do to help them make the life?
I assume you're talking about prior to the Russian.
Either the
recent Russian.
Either the Russians or the European immigrants around World War II.
Oh, there was no immigrants, except for a few refugees. There were a few refugees.
Okay.
Fritz Goldbach is an example. Except for the few refugees, there was no immigration in Indianapolis, nor was there any immigration to anywhere else in the United States. There was very tight immigration controls during the 20s and the 30s. That was one of the major conflicts, political conflicts in this country. Have you ever heard of the Sacco-Vanzetti case?
Yes, I did.
Oh, you have. That's good. That was an example of anti-immigration. The animosity toward Sacco and Vanzetti was largely because they were immigrants.
My next question is about World War I, and even though you're fairly young, do you know how your family felt about World War I?
Oh yes.
Could you?
My father was in his middle 40s when World War I began, and he volunteered. They told him to go home and take care of his children.
And how did the war?
Oh, and my brother Morris was in the Navy in World War I.
Okay.
He was at Great Lakes training to be a radioman when the war ended.
Okay.
And my brother Buster, who was too young, went to military camp in the summertime, preparing to be to enlist.
Okay. And how did the war affect the Jewish community of Indianapolis?
Are you referring to World War I?
Yes.
Well, the first few things that I know about this are the German club changed its name to the Athenaeum.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Athenaeum?
Yes.
Downtown? Good.
Yes.
Well, that was a German club, and Jack Goodman was an active member of the German club, and then when it became the Athenaeum, he remained with the Athenaeum. Now, that was an example of the fact that these people didn't want to be thought of as just German. They wanted to be thought of as Americans. And of course, one of the major incidents in this area was Eugene V. Debs ran for president of the United States. He was from Terre Haute, and he ran for president of the United States as a socialist. And then when the war began, that was 1916, probably 1915 for the 1916 election.
Right.
And the year later, when the war began, he refused to serve, became a conscientious objector. And there was a lot of emotion about that. I personally don't have any knowledge of how the Jewish community fared during 1917 to 1919.
Okay.
I was a 3-year-old.
Okay. And you'd also already mentioned a lot about your experiences in the Depression, but how did the Jewish community as a whole respond to the economic hardships that many of its members faced?
I think as a whole, now remember, everybody had bad experiences during the Depression. Everybody had difficulty. There were no exceptions. Understanding, and that this went on for 13 years with no solution. The Roosevelt administration made great efforts to improve things. They failed. Out of it came Social Security. Out of it came rural electrification, major thing. And out of it came a number of other public works that were very desirable. But none of it defeated the Depression. None of it revived the economy. But looking back at the Jewish community in Indianapolis, in comparison to the community as a whole, I would say the Jewish community survived it very well. It certainly survived it well from a emotional standpoint. And during the Depression, when nobody had a nickel, the number of college students increased, really increased, because there hadn't been very many going to college at all. I'm speaking of local people prior to 1929. I would say as a whole we did very well.
Okay. And moving on to World War II, how did you feel about World War II?
Oh, I joined, first, the draft began in the fall of 1939. And and I followed like everybody. I mean, there's nothing, when I'm going to say this to you, nothing unusual about what I did. I followed the progress of the draft. I didn't want to be drafted. I wanted to join as a volunteer. In the fall, in the spring of 1941, it became very obvious that I was going to get drafted any time now. And I started looking for an officer's training program. And I found one in March of 1941 and joined the United States Naval Reserve. And the officer's training course, which was called V7, that I was going to participate in, gave me the choice of when I wanted to be called up, because the classes were very small and you had to wait. So I picked January 20th, 1942. And that time was very well timed for Pearl Harbor. And I reported to Abbott Hall, Northwestern University, Chicago, Illinois, on January 20th, 1942.
Okay.
And I got my commission early in May 1942, and by the end of May, I was serving aboard an old, pardon me, an old battleship called the New Mexico.
Okay, and how much information did you have about the Holocaust as it was occurring?
I had a lot.
Really? And where did you get this information?
Naval intelligence.
Okay.
I was a staff duty officer. That doesn't mean anything to most folks, and it never will mean anything, because the words are so soft-sounding. In January 1943, I was transferred from the New Mexico. I was in Nandi Bay in the Fiji Islands, and I was transferred from the New Mexico to a admiral's staff that was forming. There was no admiral as yet. On small aircraft, a division of small aircraft carriers. These were the largest small aircraft carriers. They were converted fleet tankers, and they were all brand new. They had come from the Casablanca operation to the Pacific. And I went over to this ship, the Suwannee, to report to the flag, and it wasn't there. By that I mean there was me, and then there were two other guys. They just gotten there, and there was nothing for us because there was no admiral, and it was a few weeks or a month maybe before an admiral arrived. He hadn't even been appointed an admiral as yet. He was still a captain, and I was a communications officer on the flag. Ultimately, I became a staff duty officer. And in the course of my duties, I read intelligence bulletins that were constantly being fed into us. Office of Naval Intelligence was the source of the information. And I'm guessing now, because I never wrote anything down, I'd say that it was probably 1944 that I began to read bulletins that were talking that were inferring and then talking about the massacre of Jews in German prison camps. They didn't call it a Holocaust. That came much later. They called them concentration camps. I probably did see the names of some of these camps, but they didn't. The names didn't mean anything to me at that time. Later, of course, when I understood. But I was conscious of these, and when you're ready to get to that point, I did something about it. For me, not for the Jews in Germany. For me, I did do something.
What did you do?
Well, on October the 25th, 1944, we began. We meaning the Cardiff 22. That was the Ford aircraft carrier. We participated in the largest naval battle in the history of the world. It was the Battle of Leyte Gulf. I'm sure you never heard of it.
Actually, I think I've read about it in history classes.
You may have, but probably not much. Anyway, that was the largest naval battle in the history of the world, and there will never be a larger naval battle because the whole method of fighting at sea has changed so radically that they'll never have the need to do that again. And the admiral that I was working for had a dominant role in the battle. And after it was over, he awarded me a medal of some consequence, the Legion of Merit. And we experienced considerable damage, and we were all sent to, when I say we all, I mean our carriers all went to Bremerton, Washington for overhaul, and we were all sent home for a month's leave. While we were home, I got a phone call from our chief of staff, who was a captain, and he told me that the staff was breaking up. The admiral had been transferred to fast carriers, and this was Admiral Thomas Sprague, and that he had been transferred to Great Lakes and was the new commandant of Great Lakes. And he was inviting me to come to Great Lakes and join his staff and spend the rest of the war in Chicago. Well, that was about as cushy a job as I could have been offered. I mean, that was great. But something about it disturbed me. And I said, let me call you back, Captain. I want to give it a little thought. So I gave it some thought. And I decided that being Jewish, spending the rest of the war in Chicago wasn't a good idea. I felt I ought to go back to the Pacific. And now I can say this to you and to that camera because this is a very arrogant thing to say, and it's patting myself on the back, and I'm very aware of that, and I don't talk about this. But it's the truth. And I decided I ought to go back to the Pacific. So I called the captain up, and I didn't tell him what had prompted me to make this decision. But I said, I think I ought to go back. And I told him how much I appreciated what he'd offered me. And I went back. When I got back to Pearl Harbor, I discovered that the Admiral Sprague, had left orders for me to be transferred to his staff on the fast carriers.
Mm-hmm.
That's Task Force 58, Task Force 38.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
No, I'm
All
sorry.
right. Okay, I know. Well, this is the, I'll put it in different words. The battle fleet.
Mm-hmm.
The fleet is enormous,
Right.
some thousands of ships.
Mm-hmm.
The battle fleet is just the attack fleet.
Uh-huh.
And it's composed, and still is, only under totally different arrangements, it's composed of 4 task units
Mm-hmm.
based on 3 fast carriers each, 2 fast battleships,
Mm-hmm.
3 heavy cruisers, a couple of light cruisers,
Mm-hmm.
about 18, destroyers in 4 groups.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an admiral in command of each group.
Okay.
And Admiral Sprague was in command of one of those 4 groups.
Okay.
And I went back and joined his new staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a staff duty officer with that, and a communications officer with that new group.
Okay.
And we participated in every major event from January 1945 to the end of the war.
Okay.
And we wound up, when the war ended, we were in front of Tokyo Bay waiting to enter when the war ended.
Okay.
And during that period, we were primarily attacking Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
After Okinawa, we were attacking Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And we, meaning those 4 task units,
Mm-hmm.
were the continual target of kamikazes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we were also, by coincidence, at 8 o'clock in the morning on the 25th of October in 1944, the target of the first kamikaze attack.
Mm-hmm.
Down in the basement, I have pictures of that first attack. And then after that, we were, till the end of the war. And in fact, even a week after the war ended, we were still being targeted by kamikazes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Our next group of questions is about Zionism and the establishment of Israel. And first of all, what was your experiences with Zionism and the establishment of Israel?
Well, let's go back to Zionism.
Okay.
My father was an anti-Zionist.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't believe in the idea at all. He thought it was dangerous and a disaster.
Okay.
My family has letters that he wrote to his family in Israel
Mm-hmm.
and in Kishinev expressing these ideas. So this isn't memory.
Okay.
This is documented.
Uh-huh.
You won't hear that very often.
No.
Well, I might just preface this by saying that the Jews of Kishinev,
Mm-hmm.
the target of the Tsar's pogrom
Mm-hmm.
in 1903, were a totally different than most of the Jews in Russia, in the sense that they had this socialist enthusiasm,
Mm-hmm.
and saw socialism as the cure for their terrible condition.
Mm-hmm.
And that forced them into having opinions on subjects that other people didn't even know existed. They weren't smarter,
Mm-hmm.
they weren't better informed, they were just crazier. They were crazier.
Okay.
They were the basis of the Mensheviks.
Okay.
You're familiar with the Bolsheviks and
Right.
the Mensheviks?
Right.
they were the basis of the Mensheviks. Kishinev had the only trade union in Russia in those years, and it was a Jewish union. In other words, the only union in Russia, labor union in Russia, was Jewish. That made it a target, boy. And my father was anti-Zionist. But his sister, in about 1924, moved to Israel, long before most people, not to Israel, to Palestine, to British Palestine, and raised a family. So we had Israeli relatives, and still do. And I was conscious of the formation of Israel. I remember feeling that they made a terrible mistake in not having a secular government. I still think they made a terrible mistake not having a secular government. I think any country that doesn't have a secular government has made a terrible mistake. At any rate, and I felt very supportive of Israel. My brother was the chairman of the Federation in 1954. And maybe 55, I can't remember. That's my brother Morris, who's 106 years old today. Not today, at the present.
And what did the Jewish community as a whole do to support the establishment of Israel?
Well, they raised money. A few went over. I don't remember who, but a few did. They raised money, and they didn't raise massive amounts of money because we didn't have the wealth in Indianapolis to do that. But I think that the Jewish population did very well considering its means, its ability.
And then, even though you had talked extensively about civil rights earlier, I'm just wondering, what has been your involvement with the civil rights movement?
Well, my involvement it's more emotional than anything else. Now, I'm a member of the NAACP. I'm a member of the Southern Poverty Legal Association. I think it's called Association. I can't remember the exact wording. I'm a card-carrying member of both. I'm a member of the ACLU. Okay? But if you ask me, what did I do personally? I'll tell you one thing I did do, come to think of it. In 1952, mainly because of my brother's, Morris's, leadership. And he was involved with the Quakers, a Quaker group here in town that was moving in this direction. We decided, and I was the instrument to doing this, to break the color line in our business. We had a jewelry factory. We probably employed 30 people. We had jewelry stores, and we went to Crispus Attucks High School, seeking out a good candidate for a clerical job. Now that seems pretty nothing, but there were no blacks, I should say, with clerical jobs in Indianapolis. None. Zero. So, they invited me to come to Crispus Attucks and sit in one of the classes and listen, a business class, and listen to the class, and they had a candidate in the class, and to watch her and see how she did and so forth and so on.
Okay.
Miss Johnson. Can't remember her first name. And I did, and I was very impressed with the young lady. Now, think how demeaning this whole idea was. Demeaning to them. That I should sit there and observe them to see if they could do a clerical job. Ridiculous. But it wasn't ridiculous because you needed someone who had the maturity to go into a hostile situation. Now, no matter who hired her, it would be a hostile situation. There was no other kind. So, we told our people on a Friday that Monday there would be, Miss Johnson would be reporting for work in the factory office, and that she was black, and that she was a lovely lady, and they would be working with her. Well, they announced to us, they, meaning the employees, they wouldn't be showing up Monday. Now, they didn't all say that, but enough of them did to put us in a position where we couldn't really operate. So, we said, well, that's up to you. That's your decision. And we came to work Monday, and they were all there. And Miss Johnson turned out to be the most popular person in the office in a matter of a month. What was really wrong is, what was really disturbing them is that we were changing everything as they saw it. We were really changing nothing, but we were changing everything. And of course I was thrilled. Now, previous to that in our factory, we had tried to hire non-whites, not blacks, non-whites. Once we wanted to hire a Philippine to be a polisher. He was pretty good, and the boys in the factory said, he comes in, we go out. That was several years before Miss Johnson, and circumstances were changing. Now, you know what is one of the major things that changed circumstances in Indianapolis, Indiana at that time?
What?
The Crispus Attucks basketball team.
Okay.
Prior to 1948, the IHSAA, you know what that is?
Yeah.
Would not allow black schools to be a member. Now, there was only black schools in Indianapolis and Gary. All the others were integrated. So there were black players, but not black schools. Beginning in 1948, Crispus Attucks became a member of IHSAA and started to play in the basketball tournament. In 1948, 1948. In 1950, Crispus Attucks had a great basketball team and went to the Final Four and got beat. And broke our hearts. I mean, we meaning a lot of people in Indianapolis were really enthused about this. In 1955, when Oscar Robertson was a junior,
Mm-hmm.
Crispus Attucks lost one game and won the state championship. And in 1956, they went through undefeated and won the championship.
Mm-hmm.
And their coach, Ray Crow, a wonderful man from a wonderful family.
Mm-hmm.
His brother, George Crow, was a major league baseball player and was a major star.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Ray Crow had principles that he made his team follow. For instance, he insisted that they always be, during great game periods, they always be dressed properly.
Mm-hmm.
No hip-hop clothes, no, I mean, it was different kind of clothing, but it was extreme.
Mm-hmm.
He made certain that they never protested any decision of the officials.
Mm-hmm.
Never showed on their face that they were angry or anything. And he insisted on perfect deportment. I mean, they had to behave or else.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this team was going into small towns, as the visiting team.
Mm-hmm.
And they were coming in hated because they were black.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they had this winning record, they were coming in hated and feared.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were going to, the home team knew they were going to get beat. And Ray Crow handled it so gracefully. He never allowed any arrogance, any swaggering. In other words, he understood the neighborhoods,
mm-hmm.
and he understood the atmosphere. Well, in the beginning, there was a lot of hatred of the team.
Mm-hmm.
They had a song, the Crazy Song. You never heard of that, did you?
No.
They had a song called the Crazy Song. And when there was about 2 minutes left in the game and Attucks was ahead by 20, they would start singing the Crazy Song. And the last sentence of the song is, "Oh, we can beat anybody and you can't beat us." And I know that sounds like nothing, but in the atmosphere, in the racial atmosphere, and then this song coming banging at you, it angered lots of people. By the end of 1956, when they had won 2 state tournaments,
mm-hmm.
people were convinced that all their preconceived ideas were wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that blacks were dumb.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that blacks couldn't play as a team, only as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that these were uncontrollable people.
Mm-hmm.
They were dangerous people. They were only dangerous because they won. They weren't dangerous because they hurt anybody.
Mm-hmm.
These and many other preconceived ideas were destroyed
Mm-hmm.
by the example that Ray Crow and his Attucks team showed.
Okay.
And it raised the respect for black people,
Mm-hmm.
and it gave back black people pride.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pride on something real, not on some imaginary ideas.
Okay.
So I think Indianapolis never had a race riot during the race riot periods.
Mm-hmm.
In the 62, up
Yeah.
in 63, when Detroit was burned down and all that. Indianapolis never had it. And I always felt that it was Crispus Attucks' basketball team that made that possible.
Okay. We're going to move on to some more general
I know I
questions.
went into more detail than you wanted.
We're gonna move on to some more.
Fortunately, you can edit all this out.
Actually, I'm not the one who's editing.
Well,
it,
someone
so,
can
yeah.
edit all this out.
First of all, what do you think it means to be an American Jew?
Oh, I can't exaggerate what that means. That makes me very emotional when you say that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that there are all kinds of reasons why we're the kind of country we are.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the main reasons is because we do not have a religious government,
Mm-hmm.
or a government that has any involvement with religion,
Mm-hmm.
actually a government that repels religion.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't have become the kind of nation we are if that hadn't happened. I mean, if that hadn't been a bedrock of our Constitution, or rather the Bill of Rights. An example of what makes us what we are is what's happening right now. The enormous influx of Spanish speakers has hardly made a ripple in this country. If this had happened anywhere else, there would have been violence in terms of a violent change in the government, because what happens to immigrant groups as they come into the United States, when they come in, they still can't get the old home out of their minds, and they want to brag about their heritage and their old home and their past.
Mm-hmm.
But in one generation, that's pretty well gone, and in 2 generations, it's really gone. And these people coming from all kinds of troubled areas become part of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And they really are part of the United States, and they see themselves as Americans. They don't see themselves as Spanish Americans or Mexican Americans. They see themselves as Americans. Mm-hmm. And it's a joy just to watch it happen if you don't get involved in the politics of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened with the Jewish immigrants, of whom my father was obviously one. Now, I have just come back this Monday
Mm-hmm.
from my family's second national reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Goodman reunion.
Mm-hmm.
Goodman was the old name.
Mm-hmm.
And we have one family that comes from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Recently left Russia 10 years ago, and now Israel, and now they come to our reunion in the United States. And Morris and I, but Morris doesn't go because he's not well enough to go. I am the only son of one of the original 4 brothers that came over to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
We now have 300, the family now is 300 people.
Wow.
And it started with my father.
Wow.
And they are Americans,
Mm-hmm.
most of whom happen to be Jewish. However, a sizable portion of them aren't Jewish, because one of the brothers married a non-Jewish, and most of their children became something else, but they're still Goodmans. They still come to the reunion,
Mm-hmm.
and they are comfortable with us, and we're comfortable with them. In fact, it isn't an issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we're talking about a large number of people, not 4 people.
Right. And to you, is being American or Jewish more important, or are they
Being
equal?
American,
Okay. Have you always felt this way?
always.
And what does your
Maybe that's why I didn't have any trouble in the Navy. I would say, now that I bring it up. I never thought of it, but that may be exactly what it was. I didn't set myself apart. I didn't make myself different. I don't mean that was a good thing or a bad thing. That's what I did.
And what does your Jewish identity mean to you?
Oh, it means a great deal to me. Not in a religious sense. I'm not a believer.
And how do you best express your Jewish identity?
How do I best express my Jewish identity?
Yeah.
I guess the nose on my face.
Okay. And if you could change one thing about the Indianapolis Jewish community, what would it be and why?
I haven't any thoughts on that matter at all.
Okay. We're going to move on to some questions about Federation. First of all, what has been your involvement with the Jewish Federation?
Well, if you're talking about a lifetime, a great deal. If you're talking about recently, hardly anything. And why? I'm retired. And I simply don't have the means to participate in any marked way. And my brother, who really participated, is way too old to even think about it.
Okay. And what role do you feel Federation plays in our community?
Oh, I think Federation plays a wonderful role. I think that the Jewish Community Center, when I think back to the old Kirschbaum Center, the progress is incredible. The nature of the Jewish Center, now, when I say this from my standpoint, an 87-year-old man who is a widower and who uses the center a great deal. Why? Well, my brother lives there. He's lived there 9 years. He's probably lived there longer than anyone else. And he is the oldest member of a patient at Hooverwood. That's one side of it. The other side is I work out 3 times a week. And so that, in other words, I'm there often. I use the portion of it that I am interested in. I'm very pleased with the people I see there. And I see the little kids in BJE. My grandchildren all went to BJE and had the highest regard for it, and look back on it with genuine affection. And then I see all the people using the health club, and I think the variety is terrific. The fact that everybody is welcome and are really treated well, equally. I mean, I don't see any racism going on. Now, if you had someone who was disruptive and he happened to be black, and they'd have to do something about it, it wouldn't be a racial incident, it would be a personal incident. It wouldn't have anything to do with the color of his skin. I can see that, I know what a lot of the trainers are black and they're wonderful, and they are just great. And I find that every time I go over, I'm aware of it and I'm proud of it.
Okay. And finally, as Federation prepares to mark its 100th anniversary, what do you see as its biggest success?
I think its biggest success is the center.
Okay.
The center is more than just a workout, you know, a swimming pool. It's a lot of different things, and I think the more things they get involved with, the better. I don't think they can. I don't think you can make a mistake in terms of taking on too much if you have the means to support it, assuming you use good management judgment and only getting the things you can support. But I think the more they do, the better. And I would love to know what the neighbors think.
Okay.
I have no way of knowing that.
And then finally, what do you see as Federation's biggest challenge for the future?
Keep on doing what they're doing.
Okay. Well, those are all my questions, so thank you very much. This has been wonderful.
Has it really?
Yes, it really has been.
Good.